All right. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I don't know if I have the option to add people even. Oh, invite friends. Here we go. Let's see if that works. I have invited you.
Okay. Let's see if, let's see. Here we go. Invite. Yeah. I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
So let's see if that works. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be going live with Stewart Marriott. It was supposed to be the other way around where he interviews me. But since we're struggling, we're just waiting to get him on with us to see if it works. And if it all works out, we will be going live on 2 pages. Hopefully he is going to hop on any minute. How's it going on your end there, Stewart?
I don't see anything on my side that allows me to join.
Okay, so let me see if I can, I don't even know, share my screen right now and see if that does anything. And we'll see if people can, all right, hold on. Stewart, does everyone hear Stewart and myself? I think you're on, Stewart. I think you should be on. I'm not sure. You might be able to go and if you come back to the photo or to the video, to the camera, you'll be able to see us. Can you hear me, Stewart?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
okay, so I don't know. Did you want to go see on your page and see if we can see you too? Because right now all we can see is my big old face. So I don't know if that works as well. But
on the Zoom, I see 2 of you, but on Facebook,
there's a little one of you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we settling for that?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So take it away.
Yeah. So my big interest in what you're doing is from having started a Bury Your Inner Weapons for Peace movement, which is a global peace movement based on the indigenous broken arrow, which means peace. And then the cross and broken arrow is peace and friendship. Friendship is so important. I have 5 daughters. I've been married twice. So my first marriage lasted 15 years. And I think it was a teacher because relationships are a teacher. For me, when I saw quite a few of your broadcasts, the place that you're coming from as far as setting a foundation for relationships was something that it wasn't completely foreign to me when I entered into my first relationship, my first real relationship that lasted 15 years. I was in my late 20s. And I had a chance to be in the fashion business. I knew Gianni Versace very well, Armani. I traveled the whole world as far as not the whole world, but a lot of the civilized world and uncivilized world, North Africa, Morocco. And I got a chance to meet a lot of interesting people. But when it came time to choose a partner, I don't think I had done a lot of the inner work that was set me up for success in that area. So I had 5 children and things like that, and it lasted 15 years. But then I think the best thing that happened to me was divorce, sadly, where I got the 3 years to go ahead and do more inner work. And I read tons of books and did lots of sort of meditation, inner work. I set a new 100 dreams list. I had set a 100 dreams list when I was 16. I wanted to date Cindy Crawford. I wanted a house on a private island. A lot of the things I wanted to do, I'd done everything by about 26. And so I kind of recalibrated myself. But when I heard how you were talking about relationships, I thought to myself, for the audience I have, this is really a blessing to have a person with a fresh and young perspective coming from a place of love and self, kind of like, I would say, focus on self being the number one thing. It's a theme I heard you talking about. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely. I think that's like the most important aspect. And I mean, I can go into it as quickly as you want, but I think the most important part of all of this is, you know, recognizing that you're never going to get fulfillment out of other people. And it is bringing the focus back in inwardly always.
Yeah. What got you so interested in this is what was one of the questions I wanted to personally ask you.
Well, to be honest, so a couple parts. I mean, I do recognize a lot of twin flames and soulmates and life partners. So whatever terminology you want to utilize, I love it all. I'm part of all of it. But say, you know, bring it back to 8 years ago, I met a partner and, you know, he twirled my world upside down and I completely lost myself in all of that. I mean, lost to myself. Like I didn't even know who I was when we were out of that relationship. And so, you know, when that big separation happened, I realized, you know, he had planted so many seeds while we were together for me to blossom, but I didn't listen to them, right? So then fast forward, you know, after that relationship, I started, you know, listening to myself and being like, oh, I want to travel. I want to travel the world. Right. And so I was in a full-blown career and was miserable in my career. And I honestly just felt like it was the rat race, right? 9 to 5, and then your networking events and climbing the corporate ladder, and you just don't have any time for yourself. And one of the biggest things I always say is like busy is actually a symptom. A symptom of, you know, just pushing who you are away from getting to know the real person, the real authentic version of yourself. And so when I broke free of that and started traveling, you know, it was me alone a lot of the times. And I had to figure out who I was, what I wanted, what I needed, and all these things. And then, you know, I ended up in a job that was matchmaking. So I did matchmaking for a while I was traveling the world. And, you know, one of the main things was, and again, I really learned a lot while I was a matchmaker, but the problem was people wanted an easy fix, a quick fix. I know what I want. I know what I deserve in a partner, and that's it. Find it for me. Right.
Wow, how interesting. What did you find was the big thing people wanted? They wanted like good looks, they wanted charisma, they wanted money. I mean, what was the things? Were you shocked by some of that?
No, I mean, think about it. We're not shocked because we see it all around us. That's what we're taught from a young age, right? Find a partner, find a career, find all these things. But in reality, what we're actually oftentimes seeking outwardly is what we're missing inside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's what I kept hearing my clients, right? I kept hearing what they wanted inside of themselves. And I wasn't a coach back then, so I couldn't offer support or, you know, guidance. They didn't want to receive it either.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, how interesting. So you probably got a chance to be exposed to so many types of people that wanted a certain thing. But once you get that certain thing, that's no fix for yourself. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know, I could put 3, 4, 5, 10 men or women in front of my clients, and it was never good enough. It was never what they wanted. And it's because they didn't even really know what they wanted inside of themselves. They didn't even stop and take a moment to listen to what they actually desired. You know, they just were told that that's what they needed, or they had heard through the grapevines that over, you know, years of just embedded knowledge and limiting beliefs that you're put in every single day. And so when we have the opportunity to meet, you know, a partner, we're just like, well, I want him to have a nice car. I want him to, you know, be handsome and have a house and a career and, you know, ready to have babies. That was one of the biggest things was like, you know, women have, and I love them so much. Obviously I'm one of them, but we have built ourselves, you know, caused ourselves to be so independent. And then we wait till the mid-30s now to have children. It's like, well, I want a kid now. I want it now.
Yeah.
Right. So that was really, really tough. And so when I kept seeing when people were searching outwardly, you know, my prompt and my thing was like, it can't be an easy fix. It can't be a quick fix, you know?
Yeah, totally. Okay. So in your work now that you're doing as a consultant, when you see people in this quandary of I want. I mean, when I was in the 80s, narcissism was considered, you thought you were good looking, right? And I got in the fashion business, and I was a male model, and things like that. Back had top male models, and I did the runways with Cindy Crawford and Linda Evangelista and all those girls. My wife now tells me, don't tell anyone, you don't look like that anymore. I'm like, thanks, honey.
Yeah, that's all right.
Hard times. But then we considered narcissism a person that thought they were good looking. But now it seems like we're looking at a new social issue of people that won't take personal responsibility. They're never wrong. They gaslight people. They'll say you're crazy, but they're actually, they'll say like, well, I saw you out at a coffee shop with some other girl. No, you're crazy. You made, it's kind of like the song Wasn't Me, but I saw you in the bathroom. Wasn't me. That song, which is really a narcissistic song, right? It's like the narcissism go-to thing 101, deny it, right? Yeah. And are you seeing that? How do you help people avoid narcissism? Is there a certain level of self-love? Because it seems like empaths will always seek out a narcissist. Yeah. How can people avoid a narcissistic relationship while being an empath? Is that a topic you see?
I mean, I can speak on behalf of that, but in the grand scheme of things, when the main problem when it comes to all of that is the self-love that isn't there. So okay. I'll kind of tell you a little bit about, my clients have to want to work with me. They have to want to experience such a drastic change in how they perceive and receive love. And if they don't, they will tell me. Like literally their soul will just be like, no, I'm not ready. It's like, okay, well, I can't work with you because you're not going to want to work towards. So narcissism is actually like, in my eyes, people who their souls are fast asleep. Like they're so asleep on this planet that they're not connected to love. They're not connected to peace. They literally believe that they're at the cause of the universe versus holding the universe within themselves, right? Yeah, and so empaths, on the other hand, they take on energy. They take on and feel absolutely everything that, say, a person walks by, they'll probably take on that energy and they don't know how to necessarily brush it off. So it's when you have, a narcissist who's got a big personality and who usually they come in with a lot of love, an empath doesn't know how to even decipher that feeling necessarily inside themselves because they can't, they take on their energy. So I come from a really like a place of energy, mostly because oftentimes what I see is that the missing link is that people don't love themselves, and so the world will reflect back their maximum capacity for love, right? So if they, if they are seeking a partner, chances are they're seeking something that's missing inside of them. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So what I teach my clients to do is really find the love within themselves to the utmost amount, so that the world literally reflects that back at them. And when a narcissist walks by, it's like, I know you, and I feel you, and I am avoiding you because I don't have time for that.
Right, because nobody wants to enter into, if you have that certain level of self-esteem and love, a partner that's going to degrade you, gaslight you, lie to you, suck out your energy and leave you basically lifeless and listless, versus a relationship where I think I've always thought 1 + 1 in relationships could equal 2, 3, 4, a million, a billion, or 1 + 1 could equal a nuclear bomb or nuclear energy. It could go either way. Yeah. So you could have +1 equal synergistically a negative score of -10 million, or it could enter into the billions of positive, like you're just saying, energy, vibration, intention. And I've always thought kind of how things begin, they end. Yeah. Which is kind of like you meet someone, you think, okay, I can social climb off of them. I don't know, a good example, maybe Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. I don't know, to name celebrities or whatever. I don't know them personally, but let's just say you enter to sort of ladder climb. Then that's basically your relationship. If you can't go past that, it has kind of a set date. As soon as the ladder climb, you get to the top rung, you're out or whatever. Yeah. And so, yeah.
No, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I think, what happens is a lot of times when we put that cap on ourselves, we'll only, meet people who meet us at where we're at. So we're going to keep repeating those cycles. We're going to keep getting into relationships that are literally trying to show us the same thing over and over again until we become aware of what is happening.
Right. So how do you build that awareness? What tools? Meditation, quiet time, do you do therapies where you do non-dominant handwriting, using your non-dominant hand to answer questions from your dominant hand? Sorry if I'm...
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. I mean, everyone has a particular set of ways of doing that. I mean, my biggest belief is really finding your joys. Most people don't actually know what makes them happy. And oftentimes when we fall in a cycle of being unhappy, or say we're frustrated or stressed, we don't have something to bounce back and change our mindset right away. So for example, you know, I love surfing. Surfing is my go-to thing at all times. I mean, I can meditate, I can get my exercise, I get everything all at once, right? So when I'm frustrated or upset or something is bothering me, I know that I can just be patient, pause everything I'm doing, get in the water, refresh, you know, kind of change my perspective and feel a lot better. So people don't even often know what their joys, what brings them joy. So what I start off with is a couple things. I mean, making conscious decisions, you know, being able to know what your values are, what your priorities are in your life, and really making conscious decisions from that place. Then I definitely introduce, you know, working on your passions, your desires, and your wants. We live in a society where it's like we're not allowed to even have those things for some reason. And so I reconnect them with that. I also, I mean, there's a whole, you know, meditation is part of that and making sure that you're healthy and all those things. But I also really tap into sex. Sex is actually one of my favorite topics. I believe that we lead with so much vulnerability, and so it's really, So sex is a big topic. I mean, if you experience vulnerabilities in your sex life, you are leading, for the most part, in some way, shape, or form like that in your life as well. So taking a look at that as well.
Yeah, all my kids are surfers. All my 5 daughters are surfers. We're like a surf family. So we just like party ways. We jump from surfboard to surfboard on like a longboard day. So we totally relate to that. But as you're saying, a lot of people haven't really taken that time, I feel like, and know where their bliss is and where their joy is. Yeah. And that sounds like amazing advice.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you know, again, it's not something that I do for people. They have to do it for themselves. So it's when, you know, oftentimes I work with those who are really genuinely struggling and can't seem to understand what's on the other side of, you know, a heartbreak, or what's on the other side of like not, you know, being able to find a partner. So they really have to want to experience a major change in their mindset to work with me. Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you use their advice for the holidays for single people that are just kind of like, they don't know their joy, they haven't found that special someone? I think, is this true that statistically there's a lot of suicides, there's a lot of loneliness that takes place in the holidays?
I mean, they call it the cuffing season probably for a reason, right? So they you know, people are definitely seeking partners during these times because they go to Christmas gatherings, you know, your cousins or your siblings all have their partners, they have their family, and sometimes, you know, you may not be there yet yourself. And so, you know, the one thing I go with holidays, I mean, I go back and forth. Some years I go, some years I don't. It just depends on where I'm at in the world. And right now I'm in Mexico. I might be going home at some point, but potentially I won't be able to.
What part of Mexico are you in?
I'm in Todos Santos right now. That's why I'm surfing.
I'm so jealous. I'm super jealous.
I love it. It's nice. The weather's great. Better than in Canada. But no, holiday season is really tough. And I go, you know, when you focus so much on what's happening with everyone else and not focusing on yourself in those moments, that's when the loneliness kicks in. That's when, you know, all that part starts to happen. But, you know, changing your focus and being present and appreciating and being grateful for what it is that you do have can make that little bit of a difference right off the bat.
Oh, cool. Okay. Because going back to narcissism, what you're saying makes sense. And thanks for sharing that. It seems like one of the concepts of narcissism is like only thinking of yourself, but it sounds like what you're saying, and I do agree with it, is that if you don't focus on yourself, then you're kind of opening up a void in everything you see around you energetically, and you're not able to know what you want and seek out the energy that you want because you don't really know who you are, so to speak, like finding yourself. And it's like, I guess it's the chicken and the egg. If you don't find yourself, you're never going to find that person. So you have to kind of go back to the chicken and the egg.
And I go, and I mean, I'm sure people will find themselves eventually and, may find a partner that helps them on that journey. Cause, I've been in relationships where I've had a partner and, I think I'm lost here. Hold on. I'm not sure if we're still reconnected.
Yeah, this information with people.
All right, I think we're back on. Okay, cool. So if you want to go share it, you can totally go share it. But yeah, sorry guys, my internet, we're in Mexico and it doesn't always work out the way you want it to go.
At least the waves are good, right?
I know. Well, I mean, they're really good, but the weather's actually, we have a storm coming in, so I won't be serving for a couple days.
Okay. Oh, dang.
I know. Nice. Oh boy. All right. I can even see if I can invite you too and see if it works this time. You never know.
Okay. Yeah, right on.
Send the invite.
Because you're able to stream on your Facebook, right?
Yeah, that's what's happening right now. We're just doing this. Cool. But I think it's working. So I think we're back on and I think everything's all good. So yeah, where did we leave off?
Cool. Well, yeah, that's what I was asking, because I know the classic concept of narcissism is that when you focus on self, it's like considered a self-ish thing, but self-love is actually probably a prerequisite to receiving love, right? And that's something that you teach?
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference, between self-love and coming from a narcissistic place. I mean, them, it's for their advantage, but in a cruel way, to be honest. It's kind of like very controlling. And so when it comes to self-love, you actually just completely detach yourself, and not emotionally, but I mean, it becomes this feeling of like, well, yeah, you're with the right person. And if they're not going to be with you, they're going to, you guys are going to separate in a loving, kind way. So there's a different perspective that happens. And I think that's the one that's like the most important is when you love yourself fully and with who you are, you're not going to be afraid if someone walks out on you. You're not going to be afraid if someone cheats on you. I mean, cheating, I actually believe it's for you, not against you a lot of the times. And so when we can change that perspective, I don't know, something happens inside of you and something, you see the world very differently, for sure.
I totally agree. Yeah, I've experienced that in my prior marriage. I was cheated on, and how it worked out was in the beginning, I couldn't believe it. It's 15 years of marriage. You see it as your best friends, finally gone, and you're just kind of like go through the stages of grief probably over and over and over again. I don't even know how many times, but in the end result, it's actually been amazing. So that's where, you kind of come to that point where you realize this is actually giving me that 3-year break to dive in again and then sort of like raise up my level of consciousness to find that other person. And now, I mean, I couldn't be any happier with my current wife. It's amazing. We're able to co-create where before, not just co-create children, co-create ideas,
in life,
co-create children's books, co-create movements. We're able to do the other stuff that, just wasn't bringing life into the world. It's bringing ideas into fruition versus, constantly just beating each other up with a lack of commonality, where I think common hopes and dreams, I guess, is what we could say.
And I think that's even lucky for you to have someone who you can super co-create with. But I also think there can be healthy relationships where there is a lot of individuality that happens, right? Where one person is, maybe has specific dreams and goals, and the other, is on a different path, but they can still be together and support each other throughout that. So there's no, this is mine and this is yours. It's just like, it is what it is. And there's no attachment, right? To an outcome or an expectation or anything like that.
Totally. Yeah. Being able to exactly support each other's dreams, whether there are dreams that are in common. Like I've seen Grant Cardone's wife. She's always supporting Grant Cardone as a speaker, as a businessman, or however you want to say it. I think there was a book I read, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. No, what is it? A guy that had studied all the original millionaires back in the 20s. Like my grandfather's brother started the Marriott Hotels. So it turned out to be a pretty successful hotel chain from being a food service. But I know my grandfather's brother, J. Willard Marriott, his wife, Alice Sheets Marriott, was a massive supporter of everything he did. And arguably she without him, it would have been impossible to create Marriott Hotels.
Fair enough. I mean, sometimes we do need a sidekick or a partner, and as long as, you know, again, it's all love. Like, as long as it comes from that place where it's support, and, you know, and one of the main things I see oftentimes is, like, you know, partners aren't taking jobs or moving or traveling or doing, you know, limiting themselves because they don't want to hurt their partner, or vice versa.
Right.
I mean, to me, that's again, you're blocking your sole purpose. You're blocking what you most desire. And so, of course, you're going to sit in an uncomfortable state. But once you start, you know, really understanding and loving yourself, you're no longer willing to go backwards. You're no longer willing to compromise that happiness and that joy and that love that, you know, can enter your life. And so and I always call it like my big awakening. My big awakening really, truly just helped me find myself, you know, who I was at my most authentic version, so that when I meet someone, I'm not uncomfortable. I don't try to hide who I am anymore, you know, or even just things that have happened in my past. I'm an open book. Like, I speak absolutely freely on everything, because I think, you know, people need to relate. People need to understand that it's okay. You know, that's okay to be those things. It's okay to be different.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome. Yeah, totally. Yeah, someone had told me when I got divorced, it was a friend of mine in Temecula. I was living in Temecula, California. He said there's these 4 quadrants that you enter into in relationships. I'm interested to see what you think, but one of them is the things you know about yourself that you're willing to tell others. There's a second quadrant, you know, but you won't tell right away. Like, guess what? I've got an STD, or guess what? I'm ADD, or I'm OCD, or, you know, any one of those things. And then the third quadrant is the things that you know about yourself, but you'll tell at a strategic time. And the fourth quadrant is things that you don't know about yourself that you can't reveal to somebody else because you're not aware of it. So that's when I call it, like, yo, issues got issues.
I love that.
Like,
no, oh my gosh, that's so accurate.
It's like, I'm like, girl, your issues got issues, or guy, your issues got issues. And it's a level of consciousness that you don't even have. So even if you wanted to share it about yourself, maybe all your best friends know it about you, but you just haven't listened, or you don't know. It sounds like.
And that happens so much, right? Everyone is actually trying to always tell you and try to give you messages and try to make you become self-aware of what it is that's happening. But it makes me laugh that you said, like, I remember, you know, having, let's call it like 4 different personas. You know, you've got your work persona, the one that you show up at work and, you know, you don't want anyone to see you, your colleagues, they see you in a particular light. Then you go home, then you've got that persona, you know, the mom or the dad or whatever it is, you've got, you know, that side of you. Then you've got the one that when you're alone, the one that you know, and most people don't want to show that part of themselves when they are alone. And that's the one that I encourage so much. Like, bring it out, let it play, like, let the world show you. That's the one that most people will love, like, to the fullest, because it's so, you know, sincere and like, it's just it's a genuine, you know, soul just trying to be themselves and not be judged, right?
How does that take a lot of faith for people to kind of be able to be, because, you know, like someone like, for instance, Jim Carrey, he gets a lot of shit because he'll talk about tetrahedron stars. Like the meditation I do is called the Merkaba, the light body meditation. It goes back to, they say Egypt, but it goes into mudras, chakras, eye movements, breath. It's only about 10 minutes guided, but then it puts me into a state of mind where if I don't do it, I just can't seem to find that same state of consciousness or peace. But I know Jim Carrey gets a lot of shit for the things that come out of his mouth, but a lot of the stuff I hear him say,
I actually love it.
Brilliant. Or like Russell Brand, right? Look at Russell Brand.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Every time he speaks, my vocabulary increases. I'm like, how does he come up with these words?
Right. And honestly, one of those things that when it comes to being aware and meditating, I mean, everyone should do it. That should never be a compromise in your life. You should always at least have like 5 minutes to yourself to meditate, in minimum, if you could, at least twice a day for 20 minutes, you know, if I could promote it. You know, totally. When you can start, like, so the thing is that in my world, we live in a 3D, but there's also, you know, 4D and 5D. And when you start being, you know, a conscious of the 5D, it's because you're doing the work internally, and you start realizing that everything you see and everything that you have around you, you've created for yourself. And so when you make that jump, you see the world from a different perspective, but you have to work through your emotions. You have to work through your shit. You really have to work through all those things before you can really start seeing the world from a different perspective. So that's why when someone comes to me to want to work with me, they have to be ready. Like, they have to say, like, I'm ready. Because I'm like, if you're not ready, you're going to, you know, again, like, one, you're not going to do the work. You're not going to take it seriously. You're not going to do all the steps, and you're not going to trust the process. When you're ready, that is the ding from me, like from the universe saying, like, okay, like, he or she wants to experience just that little bit of self-awareness and tapping into that 5D, right? Or whatever it is that you want to call it. I don't know. That's, you know, that's what, but some people don't want to experience that while we're here, and that's okay. You know, that part, that's fine too.
I feel like this conversation, we would have been arrested 20 years ago for having it. Like, it's like, well, unless you're like a hippie, unless you're in the hippie commune, right?
Well, that's the one thing that's happening right now. Like, on my site, you can see it. It's literally like, as we enter 2020, consciousness and self-awareness is now readily available. Like, if you want it, you can experience it. But most people, again, just fear blocks them, doubt blocks them. A lot of things, you know, that they experience just prevents them from accessing just that little bit of happiness.
That's why I love that movie Jim Carrey was in called Yes Man, because it's like, you know, you see sometimes people, and obviously everything can be in hyperbole, or you could overdo something, but when he shifts his mindset to saying yes, all of a sudden he's driving a homeless man up the mountain and dropping him off, or he's doing, you know, and I think it goes, you switch from that judgmental of self, and the peace movement, we're always trying to help people become, you know, kindness, compassion, tolerance, and respect. But when we talk about those 4 principles of peace, we're talking about kindness for yourself, tolerance of yourself, like not shooting on yourself, saying like, I should have done this, because really you should on yourself. You're going back maybe 2 seconds ago or 10 years ago and beating yourself up for something, like you said, our old relationship that really was probably a teacher, if you could see it that way, or getting cheated on, like, I should have done this and my wife wouldn't cheat on me. Well, when you start getting out of those levels of self-loathing and self-doubt, and you can get into faith for self, you move into a different shift. It totally made sense, and that's why I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get stuff on here. We need this message to go to the masses.
Absolutely.
And, you know, those who are ready, of course, in my Facebook circles and circles, I would, you know, love them to get professional help, like with what you're offering. Where can people find you on the web, or where can they find you to get that kind of help? How do people access your coaching? How does that work?
So there's a couple, you know, channels right now. I mean, you can definitely just, you know, add me as a friend on Facebook. That's totally fine. I actually have a group called Authentic Connections. You know, again, authentically connecting yourself so that you can start recognizing, one, who you are, but two, if you have a soulful contract with someone else that you're supposed to be in a relationship with, and how to identify that. So Authentic Connections is my group where I'm actually personally doing a 30-day live video content, just talking about this kind of stuff. And then, you know, you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy there. But really, truly, I'm happy to put a link at the top here of our conversation so that everyone, you know, once we close this off, everyone can have access. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay. And what made you start with the 4? Is it era? 4 era?
4 era, yeah.
And what can you help me understand more about that?
Yeah.
What that means? What that is there some symbiology in there? I'm just sorry.
Of course. No. And so 4 era. I mean, I'm currently working on myself. 4 era is like, it's funny. I started off with 4 era and then kind of retrieved back a little bit to really refine what I do personally, and then my attention will be put back into 4 era. But it's just really a portal. So it's a portal for coaches to come in, and you know, they have to be high conscious coaches who want to work for 4 era. So they really have to, you know, again, vibrate really high. And it tends to be people who all have the same purpose, in that they really want to help awaken souls to happiness, joy. Now, each person has, I love people who, you know, can't find their partner. That's my area of expertise. You know, I have people who, you know, really struggle with either acting or their creative genius. And so I have a coach for that. I have a coach who works with depression and anxiety, people who really suffer from a deeper area. You know, I have a sex and authenticity coach. So quite a few different types. So 4 era is just a new era. It's a new era in consciousness. And you know, ultimately, the grand purpose is to awaken a lot of souls.
Okay. So you don't have to be like a millennial, or you don't have to be like, I'm in my 50s for Carlos. So I don't know. I consider myself halfway dead, or hopefully mostly alive. You never know.
Yeah, no, you're probably
so
pretty alive.
Who knows?
No,
so when I make that next wave into the next level of consciousness, but so so this is for all people. It's not for millennials. It's not for
no.
I don't know.
I would say, I mean, ideally, of course, I'm biased. I'm younger, so anyone 25 to 45 is my, area that I connect with the most. But it's not outdated for anyone. I think anyone can access consciousness. But again, it's literally, do you want it? Is the question.
Yeah.
That's the main importance. Like, I can't stress that enough. Most people, want to stay, and I hate using this word, but stay asleep, stay in the 3D world and be that robotic person and just follow the norm. And, because they have a hard time stepping out of fear and stepping out of the doubt and not having faith. And so so people really have to just be like, that I want that. Like, I want to experience happiness. I want to experience joy. I want to experience self-love, self-care, all those things. Like, that's my next step in life. And then I'm like, come on in.
Well, those areas are really awesome, because I think some people in the area of sex do have a lack based on preconceived ideas about what sex is or what it should be in a relationship. Yeah. As far as, I was hearing you say, if I'm saying this right, but people that are either have anxiety or depression, I feel like it's at an all-time high. I can't even believe it. I mean, from my era, I was born in the 60s, late 60s. I guess, we didn't know there was an option to be depressed. We just, it was like, I come from time. So we just thought, okay, you wake up in the morning, you tie your shoes, you go to work, or you do what you do. Yeah. And maybe it was just, there was depression, but there wasn't a platform to discuss it, like social media or anything. It was all pre-internet. And so, but now it seems like, wow, there's so many people that are either self-conscious, depressed, they can't get past their mental blocks. So that's great. You have coaches for that.
Yeah. And I've seen, I've had some friends who've, suffered from severe anxiety for years on end. And, when they go through this type of coaching program, they really are able to understand that it's, they can move forward. And I mean, like, someone who has crippling anxiety, who literally, she struggled to leave her house. She struggled with so many, day-to-day tasks. And when she finally stepped into who she was, to understand what is actually happening inside of her, she was like, wait a minute, I can wake up like every morning now and love myself and be happy. And so it's literally, sometimes it's just a switch. And I know some people are, extremely, this isn't for everyone. So I'm not saying, this is a cure or anything like that, but the coach that works with them is a 4th-year medical student and who is studying to be, a psychiatrist. And so she's in it, right? So she leads with the self-love. She leads with that, spiritual aspect, so that it helps. And I believe, as human beings, we have everything that we need to, be happy and be kind and love. And so anything else is pretty much taught along the way, which is unfortunate.
Right. Yeah, it is really unfortunate. Yeah, because I grew up in a household where, 5 generations Texan on my mom's side, and then entrepreneurial on my dad's side, where our only emotions that were ever validated was either like, you're either sad or happy. And it was like, you're either able to be sad or happy, but there wasn't a lot of other emotions that were validated or taught. Yeah. And I think it can make you sort of an emotional IQ of a lower IQ versus, because if you aren't taught that, you can't recognize it in others, so to speak. So I would only recognize happy or sad people. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a black and white world. Yeah. But there's so many other emotions that should be, I think, either validated or made aware of to become an emotionally connected person.
Exactly. And oh my gosh, like, it goes back, everything in your life ultimately has been taught to you, right? So anything that you hold on as a belief has been, brought into your life from either potentially generation after generation. And so sometimes, it doesn't necessarily work for us. And so I love using this aspect, because I think love and money are the 2 things that people want the absolute most of in their lives, right? And so again, when we are deprived of love, or when we are deprived of money, we have a negative association to love and a negative association to money, for example, or even sex, anything, to be honest. And so it's really understanding where that comes from, like where, and that's stuff that you can figure out literally on your own, as long as you start becoming self-aware to what it is that your thoughts are saying to yourself. You know, are you saying, you know, well, I'm not worthy of love? Well, of course you're not worthy. If you're saying you're not worthy of love, you're never going to open yourself up to receiving love.
Okay. Yeah. Does that get into the idea of what you focus on expands? So what you focus on. So how do you get someone, because what I see in the Barrier and Weapons for Peace movement, a lot of the kids that are followers, they'll tell me, and the moms and the people will say, yeah, my kid has really bad self-talk, sort of negative self-talk. How do you get into affirmations to overcome that, or following your bliss?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, first I teach, you know, because a lot of the times it comes from a place of not being seen or not being heard. So I also say, you know, your thoughts create your reality. So you know, your thoughts are creating your actions, and your actions are, you know, automatically creating what's happening inside of you. So if your thoughts, exactly. If your thoughts are really negative and your self-talk is really harsh on yourself, that's the perception of the world you're going to receive. So if you are able to change that self-talk, you know, force yourself literally to go from, you know, I don't love myself to I love myself, and start telling yourself these things, the world will change around you, because you will change perspectives.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard. I mean, maybe it's an Einstein quote, maybe not, because so many think, I think misquoted on the internet. But I think he said, if you look into the universe and see it as a friendly universe, or if you see it as a hostile universe, whichever one you see, you're right.
Yeah. No one's right or wrong in any of this. I mean, it's your perception. You have the right. Yeah. You have the choice to create the perception in the world that you want around you. And so my biggest thing is, I mean, who wouldn't want happiness over anger, and who wouldn't want, you know, fun over fear? And so it's up to you really to decide on what it is that you want, really.
Yeah. That's so cool that you have this program to help people to, like you're saying, because that's one of the themes of the peace movement is faith is mightier than fear, peace is mightier than war, and love conquers hate. Is sort of some of the three things we discuss. And it's kind of what I'm hearing you say is like a through line: love, self-love, loving others, seeing the world the way you want to see it, but also having it come from within. Really powerful stuff.
Having the tools for it.
I know old psychologists, I feel like the old psychology would be, they got to go into your past. I don't know, from anything from shock treatment to lobotomies to, I don't even know, medications on a heavy level to serotonin uptake, you know, recreate brain chemistry. But if you get into a placebo effect, I mean, clearly if you understand vibration, understand consciousness, the placebo effect alone, we could change our brain chemistry just by right this second. Even the pH of our blood, which is either base or alkaline or base, alkaline or acidic, you can change that right now by thoughts. It's been scientifically proven. So
I know
this is,
thoughts create your reality.
It's so cool that this is a thought-based, self-focused program that you're doing. That was really why I said, man, I have to get you live. And
well, I appreciate it. I keep saying, you know, and this is for me out loud, but I keep needing to be more visible. I keep needing to be more vulnerable, and just being completely open and leading from that space. And I know that that's where my genius comes out. And so I appreciate you for pushing me to do this as well.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably just talk all day long with you. It's like, you're so fun to talk to. You have so many authentic and genuine points that you're bringing to the table here. And, you know, like when we met on the LinkedIn format, I thought, wow, and then I was able to come stalk you. I couldn't wait to get you and some of your ideas and people that are out there struggling either with negative self-image, if you're having problems with your sex life or can't find a partner. It sounds like you have a nice little network of people with amazing intentions to bring people through. But it sounds like one of the prerequisites is you have to be ready to do the work. Am I saying that?
Yeah, because I mean, no one can do the work for you. It's kind of like, you know, if I could snap my fingers and be like, well, I love myself, well, that would be wonderful. And if I could do that for you, I would. But it literally starts from within. You have to want it. You have to want to experience some change. And it's not hard. Like, it's not like I'm like twisting your arm or doing anything like that. I'm literally just putting a change in perspective. So I work with, you know, various levels of energy as to where we're at in society. And oftentimes people are stuck in like that level 1, level 2, where it's a lot of blaming or a lot of frustrations, anger, things like that. And so it's working through that and accepting those things that you can move up higher and on the awareness scale. And once you can, really understand that, then you just have to listen and really apply it to your life. It's not difficult.
Okay. Is that getting into power versus force concepts, where back in the 70s, I think they did muscle testing to see the levels of vibration for thought, and the lowest level of thought was shame. And then you kind of went up the levels of thought up to, you would think love would be the highest, but it was ranked close to the highest, which gets into serenity, love, and coming. So getting into those levels of thought, noticing where you're thinking, if you're constantly, because even I grew up in an environment where my mom, God bless her, I love her now, but she was so difficult as a child. She would shame us, thinking that was going to bring the change. And it's just a naive young woman trying to be a mother, not knowing what to do. But clearly shaming ourselves or shaming others is not going to bring the best result.
No. And a lot of the people who really struggle with that is the victim as well. Like we're living in a victimized society and not taking responsibility for what it is that is happening around us. And that's hard too. And when you see someone who's a victim, I mean, validation is a really big tool to help them see a different perspective. And so it's never to just, shut them down. It's I hear your perspective, and it's normal to feel that way based on, so it's really validating the victims, because we live in a society that we've been taught how to be a victim, and we've been taught, we've been pushed so many ways, and so it makes sense, it makes sense to be a victim in the society, but it's, truly about getting them from there to fight for themselves and, understand that they are responsible for who they are and who they hang out with and who they, where they work. And so making sure that they understand that you picked this for yourself. You chose this,
Oh, cool. I'm glad you're talking about that topic, because that's a big topic nowadays. I totally have it. My oldest son's 26. And so I have 26 down to 12. And like I was saying, from the era I grew up in, classically like late 70s, 80s, you didn't hear much about it. It was just like, if you won, you won. If you lost, you lost. You didn't get a prize for coming in 100th place. It was just kind of like, and I know that the pendulum has really swung. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm not taking a position right or wrong on the subject, because I understand everyone, as an autonomous thinker, has the right to have self-belief, but I have noticed the shift personally. And it's interesting. So you're saying validating that can help maybe free someone from it, and validating. I know in a marriage, it seems like men want to be validated, men want to be spoken to. It gets into kind of love language. And versus, I mean, maybe some men want gifts and they want quality time or whatever, but I noticed that especially for a man, validation or, positive, what's it called? It seems to be high on the list.
Yeah. And touch is really important for males.
Touch. Yeah, exactly.
And speaking about the 5 love languages, I think it's such an awesome tool too. It's like, when you know what your partner's needs are and what your own needs are, I mean, that's so important. And how do you deliver certain things? Because oftentimes what we'll tend to do, like, I love gifts. I mean, that's one of my biggest thing is like just gifts, like, I never need to receive a massive gift, but just the thought of someone thinking of me and giving me something brings me a lot of joy. And so oftentimes I lead with that, because that's the way I like receiving. And so that's often what happens in relationships is we lead with our biggest need, and that's what we tend to overwhelm our partners with our own need when that might not be theirs. And so when our needs aren't being met, we actually completely push away and ignore their needs. Okay. So wow. Okay, you become like a baby, like a selfish baby. Literally, like one of the perfect examples. I mean, for me personally, quality time, say, is really important with a partner. And I have a partner who loves, sex and touch, and that's their biggest need. Well, if I'm not receiving the quality time, guess what's the first thing that's going to go? No one's getting sex. right? So
well,
when
I mean, see, you're blessing us with quality time, and this is a gift to be able, to have this information. For some people, you're giving a free gift of information here, so we're getting that from you right now, live.
Yeah, and so I am grateful for all of that, and so I guess that means can't be all sexual out of this, but
the gift here of your quality time, and we're getting it. It's amazing. Yeah, so I that does make sense. I think that gets into levels of awareness, right? I think that if you're not taking time for self, if you're in the rat race, if you're waking up 10 minutes before work, brushing your teeth, whatever, rushing out, getting coffee and whatever, then I think the level of consciousness may never happen, I guess. But if you take that time, you can kind of notice the subtle signals that a partner, maybe not so subtle, you're not getting sex. Yeah. That's not very subtle. Yeah. I mean, if you're a guy, a classic man, you're like want it every day or 5 times a day, depending on your sex drive or your libido. If you're one of the Kennedys, clearly you probably want it more than others or whatever. But certain people have a sexual sexuality, sexual energy doesn't have to translate into sex. Could be creative energy as sexual energy. It's such a powerful level of energy. Mm-hmm. But if you're not getting it, then I guess that you should have that aha moment. But since that sounds like projection, we're projecting onto others what we would want. And then I guess that's a level of self-awareness and sort of listening into the subtleties.
Yeah, and it's a break in communication, right? Because if I need more quality time, how is he supposed to know? Right? Or if he's coming up with like, hey, what's going on? We're not, sexually active. What's happening? If he doesn't also, if he's not able to do that with me, then it's just going to keep, we're just going to keep going our separate ways. So communication obviously is a huge piece, but I mean, being able to communicate even, on a first date when you meet someone. Yeah. Like
I read that in a book somewhere when I was divorced. I forget the book, but it was called Content Communication, where they gave an example of an older lady married for like 60, 50 something, a ridiculous amount of time, right? And the husband was driving a truck and they were speeding home, and she kept saying, "Oh, I'm so thirsty." And she kept hinting towards something that wasn't apparent to him. And he was like a military guy, loved his wife. He speeds faster to get home because he knows they're 5 minutes away from home, and she knows there's a 7-Eleven on the corner. And she's saying, "Oh, something with ice would be so great." And he's thinking, "I'm going to go home and get out the ice machine. I'm going to get this drink for my wife. It's going to be perfect." Yeah. And all she wanted to do was pull over the damn truck to a 7-Eleven, get her a Coke with ice. And so in the therapy session, she says, "He doesn't love me." And the therapist says, "No, he loves you. Mm-hmm. You aren't communicating effectively." And then the last thing she's thinking is she's going to catch the blame for having not said what she really wanted in clear terms. Because if she would have told this loving husband, pull over to the 7-Eleven, he would have shut the car down, turned and parked and got her anything. Yeah. But that was something that she didn't know. Even after 50 years of marriage, it's like the woman coughing when the man comes in, like, and then looking at the trash, but she wants the trash taken out. Or the man just sort of like expecting sex, but he's not able to say, "I need sex tonight." Yeah. Even the girl at the drive-thru is starting to look pretty fly. Yeah. "I need sex in my relationship," and I feel like that's a subject matter people don't grasp on, because it's a family pattern of innuendo versus content communicating.
Mm-hmm. And communication, as soon as there's a brink, or because we're receiving information differently as we may even be saying it, so misinterpretations, assumptions happen. Like everything can break a piece of communication if you're not clear. And that's so important, but you also have to know what you want to be able to communicate it. And so if we don't even know when it starts there, like she wanted a Coke, but she was like, "I'm just thirsty." Well, you weren't specific enough, or the universe would have given it to you. Like he would have turned right away, and so that's the key thing, is like being able to fully express ourselves, and our desires and our wants, of course, in a kind, loving kind of way, not demanding and controlling, but there's a difference with that. But no, I mean, I think, and oh my gosh, we could get into so many other topics, but gosh, that one is when we're not communicating, there's such a breakdown, and that can be with literally everyone around you, right? It doesn't have to be just a partner. It can be your friends. It can be your colleagues, your parents, whoever it is around you. If there's a break in communication, there is a chance for frustration, a chance for anger, a chance for misinterpreting something that someone said, and then you're off to the races in the wrong direction. That's hard. Totally. That's really hard.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like from what you're saying, like anybody that's single, anybody that's lonely, or anyone that's on the rebound or wondering, you know, where's that next person, they should probably contact you.
Well, yes, but they have to, like, they want to, right? They have to be like, I'm tired of this.
At that point of how do they know they're at that point? How do they know? Is it because they're starting to get the self-help books out?
Yeah.
How would that person know?
Well, one of the biggest things, you know, when you're in grief and you're really, like, you know, focusing on not having them, you're not ready. And I say that because your entire focus will be on them and not on yourself.
Okay.
So when you hit the brink or the stage that you're like, okay, I'm sick and tired of mourning this person, or I'm sick and tired of, like, you know, it sounds like they're never going to come back to me. Well, whatever, I need to focus on me. That moment, that's the ding. I need to focus on me.
Okay. So when you finally get back, because, you know, there's stages of grief, right? There's, like, I don't know what they all are, but I think there's, like, denial, there's bargaining, there's anger, there's all these different weird stages that could, I mean, if you really, really were, I would say, like, quote unquote, in love or in lust or whatever you were in, it could take a while, right?
Yeah.
And then you could have a rebound person, maybe, I guess. Is that a logical part of it a lot of times?
I mean, I think everyone that walks into your life plays a purpose. So I actually don't, you know, dismiss anyone dating anyone if they're in it for the right reasons, to let them, you know, see who they are and work on themselves. As long as that is happening, then anyone you can be in a relationship with anyone. And I think, you know, a lot of the times the cycles, you know, you'll date the same type of people until you end up in a relationship where you notice that this cycle is happening again and you're ready to break it. Then when you're ready to break it, it's not then that you're going to start, like, seeing what's happening. And so date. Like, I love, like, I think dating is awesome. I think as long as you're not dating and blaming them for not being who you want them to be, that's the problem.
Or dating with the idea, like, I could change this person. Is that, like, that's pretty much like
that's a hard one. And I've been there myself, you know, where you want to change a person, but it's never about changing them. It's about you being yourself, where they're like, wow, I want to change because of this person. It has to always come from the individual. It cannot, like, you know, I was in a relationship, and gosh, still love them dearly, and we're really close, and you know, we spent a lot of time together, and we are still very intimate and all these things, but when I wanted him to just love himself and, like, wake up and just, you know, become, he was doing, like, the meditation, he was doing all these things, but he didn't really have faith, which was a big part. That
faith is, how do you teach faith? It's got to be such a difficult principle.
You find it. Once you start, you know, growing, faith just tends to happen automatically. It's like, oh my God, where did all of this come from? So then faith
can you ask the universe for it? Is that a practice that works? I wonder, because I know the indigenous have lots of things that they do, and they're very faith-based people from working with them on projects. I wonder, I guess it's like, how do you get credit? If you don't have credit, how do you get credit?
So
you're like, shit, I got to apply for a credit card, but they're going to deny me because I don't have credit. And then you're like, I got to pay like $500 in the secured credit card to get myself credit. Holy shit, how do I get this conundrum? And it's like, faith is like that.
I know. So I guess my biggest one is faith in yourself first and foremost. Start with faith from within. You know, listen to, find your inner voice, find your intuition, find what's happening inside of you, and then miracles kind of start to happen all around you. But, you know, it's really like, if you're an atheist and you're just like, you know, I'm dead set that there is absolutely nothing more to life, then, you know, and so that is definitely hard. But I say, you know, just, I challenge you to have faith in yourself. That's it. Faith in yourself, you know, start there.
Okay, and does it help if they keep like a miracle journal or like a gratitude journal? Does that increase faith, I wonder?
I mean, I write every day. I write at least what I'm grateful for, what I'm excited for, what my focus is going to be, what my intentions are, pretty much every single morning.
Cool.
And that way you're programming your mind right off the bat to kind of, you know, think positively and start your day off in a great way. But I don't, you know, faith, I've always had a little bit of faith in myself, so I don't know if it's just come from there, but it, you know, I would love to bring Brett into this picture, because he didn't have faith. You know, he had none of that, and when we actually ended the relationship, because just our paths going a little bit differently, but we still, as I mentioned, really close, he was like, wait a minute. Now, I couldn't change him. He had to want to explore it, and love really helped him explore that option. And so now he's just like, wait a minute, what is happening around me? Like, it's always been here? And I'm like, it is. It's always all around us. You know, you just have to want to see it. You have to want to open your eyes to it. You have to want to experience it. But.
Okay. So love doesn't conquer all. It conquers all once the person's ready. Is that, I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I don't know. I mean, I think love is one of the biggest, just like oneness, right? Healing. Yeah. It shows who you are. It shows how you treat others, how you treat yourself. And so when you lead your life with love for yourself, you literally just want to spread love everywhere. And so I think once you wake up to love, that's when you wake up to the universe and wake up to a lot of other things that are happening around you.
Yeah.
And peace is up there.
Because I come from a place I feel we are all energetically connected. So that's why when someone trash talks someone else, you're lowering your vibration.
Yeah.
If you help someone else, if you positively speak about others, you're going to raise your vibration. So that's why I think people have low self-esteem if they're talking bad about others, because we are all connected.
Yeah.
And that's where, people get caught into these patterns of negativity. And even with the Barrier No Weapons for Peace movement, we don't believe in anti-bullying. We believe in peace.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't believe in anti-anything. We believe in being for love, for peace, for kindness. Because think about it, even when I was a kid, we had mad mothers against drunk driving. But if you go back to the root of drunk driving, I don't know, or I wouldn't protest to understand what would make a person drive drunk, but that person probably needs help.
Yeah,
a person that's driving drunk does, I think, have some inner work
they're very far disconnected from themselves, because they're willing to sacrifice other people's lives and themselves as well, right? And I think totally. Once you start realizing that we are all one, we are all connected, that sense of oneness, and that sense of oneness appears again with trust. Once you start awakening, once you start making those conscious decisions, you start remembering as to why we are here on this beautiful planet and why we choose to come down here. And so, when you start waking up to that, you can see when someone is stuck or blocked or they're struggling, and there's no judgment there, because you're like, well, you picked this life to come down here to experience that. And so there's no more, guilt or judgment on that person. You kind of go, well, you're just far disconnected from yourself, but you chose that for you. You chose that experience for yourself. So yeah, that removes judgment. That removes you lowering your vibration and going like, well, he's just an asshole, or he's just this. Well, no, he's just where he's at, and that's it. That there's no judgment there, right? It removes that.
Totally. I wish everyone could think like that, and then at the same time, that takes away their individual autonomy. So I don't really wish that, but I wish more people could get connected to what you're saying, because that's why I was like, how can I get this woman on Facebook Live or any format to get this word out there, because it's so important. I mean, it's so important to the individual. Yeah. It's so important to finding love. Yeah. It's so important to the healing of all individuals, the 8 billion souls, or how many are here right now and or coming and going, because I think these ideas are so important in the now. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was talked about much in the 80s. I never heard too much about it. It was more considered tree hugger stuff, and that's kind of how we all thought of it. Well, back in Texas, we had some pretty backwards thinking concept. Until I got a chance to travel, I finally realized that those weren't productive ways of thinking.
No, and education doesn't teach self-love, doesn't teach meditation, doesn't teach that conscious peace, right? And it's almost up to us to figure it out and understand it, and and really, once we catch it, to promote it, to really help spread the word, because again, that's how we heal the planet, that's how we heal ourselves, and that's how the world moves forward in a really positive and uplifting kind of way. But I do believe that plays a purpose, the yin and yang and the good and bad. And so I think all of that, when there is some bad, it's not, again, to judge it, just take a moment and go, oh, what is it trying to show me?
Yeah.
What is the message for me?
Wow. I'm so impressed. I feel like a person like yourself, you play such a valuable part in people's lives. I think because relationships, I feel like, are almost the most important, even in business. For me, business moves at the speed of trust. So if you don't have a baseline of trust, your business is going to move slowly. Relationships, of course, are built on trust, and there's some level of fidelity.
Yeah.
If you don't have trust, I feel like nothing's going to grow. It's like the sunlight and the good soil. And without having a basis for yourself to trust yourself, how do you get other people to trust you? And if you haven't spent the time, finding the right partners is going to be tough. Finding the right business partners is going to be impossible. It's just like, it's like you could climb up the wrong ladder up to this beautiful wall and look on the other side and realize you really put the ladder on the wrong wall.
Yeah.
You should have maybe spent more of the time finding self, getting love. But then I think without forums like this, people like yourself, it's like nobody knows what the starting point is.
I know.
Or how to.
It is hard. I mean, and it is something that, you know, we and it's kind of really nice. The more I'm into this, the more involved I get with people who are very similar and like-minded. And so I love that. But it's spreading that message to those who aren't, right? Who aren't connected, and getting them to hear the message and understand that and want it ultimately, right? That becomes difficult. It's like I can, you know, have a particular niche and then, you know, if people aren't wanting to receive the message, they just want that quick, you know, which we live in such a, you know, satisfying type of world. Like they want everything tomorrow. Well, you know, this it isn't overnight, you know, it doesn't happen, you know, gosh, in a day. I mean, for me, it's been work. It's been a lot of years, but I think, again, time becomes irrelevant in these moments. And, you know, you kind of realize that, we're on here to experience something in particular. And so it doesn't matter how long it's going to take for you to experience it. If you're meant to, you will, right?
Right. Totally. Yeah. That reminds me of me being a 9-year-old kid and going to my asthma doctor. And he drove a Rolls Royce. I'd never even seen one in Dallas. And he was telling me I just needed to take more of a drug and that would make me better. And at a 9-year-old, I thought, okay, this drug's going to make me better. Yeah. All it did was make me worse and more dependent on the drug. Mm-hmm. And we live in that society where it's like, well, give me a pill, give me some Prozac, give me some things. I'm not demonizing Prozac or serotonin uptake, but unfortunately, almost every one of the first-person shooters was on it, from Columbine to some of the other Sandy Hooks. Those kids were on that, unfortunately, and it's now black labeled because it has some ups and downs to it. But I wanted to be cured of asthma, so I went on a journey for the next 20 years of trying everything I could think of from a 9-year-old and into my mid-30s. The internet was invented during that time, and I was able to find out of a particular liver cleanse that took 12 hours to do, and I did it 12 times, which took 6 months, and I became completely cured of asthma. But that was a 20-year journey of doing things with the concept of faith and applying faith to hundreds and hundreds of different, you know, holistic ideas. None of them worked until I did a liver cleanse by Hilda Clark, and it was able to cure me by flushing out my gallbladder, flushing out the things that were causing me to be allergic to cats and dust, and now I have no allergy to cats. I have no allergy to dust. I'm cured. So it's like, I think that's a silly analogy of the ability to try to do something for a long period of time and not knowing when you're going to get the result.
But trying, I mean, that's the thing, right? We're here for that. Like, I think we have access to absolutely anything that we want in this lifetime, especially now with technology. I mean, it's like whatever it is that you want, it's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Only thing that isn't is the self-work.
Yeah. Like I'm over here Googling frantically, how do I get a person on Facebook Live? It's worked for me every other time. I'm like, where's the help?
Right. You know, but you got to beat it. You just got to beat it.
There's
always a way.
You beat the system.
There's always a way. There's always a will. There's a will, there's a way, is how I see it. And that's the thing. It's like leading with solutions and opportunities than just being like, no, it doesn't work. Like we could have easily have done that, right? But we kept pushing through.
Yeah, that's what awesome. It's smart, and that's a tenacity that I don't know how you teach it, but that's great that you're able to lead by example in those ways with the people you're working with. Yeah. Oh my gosh, well I could talk forever. I know. But I know the surf's up over there, and you're living your best life. That's obvious. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure people know how to get you. So you're going to put, just so my audience knows, and I'm going to share that on my Facebook and different groups that we're in. We're going to have at the top how to reach Steph or Stephanie. How do you say your last name?
Ryu. So
Ryu,
Ryu
okay.
is French. But
Is
Ryu
that French? Is
yeah,
that French?
Yeah, French,
Okay,
exactly.
That's the first language I tried to speak, but I'm a parle pas français, super petite. So
Yeah, that's
very
my first
French.
language, and then I learned English later on in life, and now it's become the predominant language, and now also Spanish.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's pretty fun.
Oh,
I like it.
hablar español, muy bien, porque
poquito, sí.
yo quiero hablar español por 15 años y
15
no hablar
años.
todo porque necesito para mi mercado en el trabajo y todo.
Pero ¿dónde
But that's
aprendió? Where did you learn it?
Okay.
Where did you learn it?
Mi esposa mi primera esposa colombiana. So, por 15 años, ¿cómo se dice? Mucho fuego en ¿cómo se dice? Relationship.
La relación.
3 hijas y 2 hijos.
Oh.
Was the product of the trabajo de mi primera esposa. So it's like,
I love
toda la
it.
familia habla español solamente. So,
Yeah, okay.
yo gringo, nada, campeón,
No.
nada.
Es difícil. I love it. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, cool. You're awesome, and I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah. Oh,
we're gonna do it again, I hope.
Yeah. Well, I just want to, spread some of this information to the Bury Your Weapons for Peace group.
Yeah.
I just know relationships are so important, and getting it right is paramount. And it can maybe give you like a 15-year pause or a 20-year pause in life from where you could arrive to, or maybe people will stay stuck in a relationship based on fear, based on.
And that's and that's the thing too. It's like when you're living in that moment, time seems to be at a halt. It seems to take forever. Things don't happen fast. But once you start becoming aware and conscious, things happen like really quickly. You're able to make conscious decisions very fast, and things, just change really quickly. And so when you can make that jump, if you're like, well, I don't have enough time. You have lots of time. Everyone has loads of time.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I would love to broadcast this to 100 million people.
Awesome.
If I had the ability. We only have like the 35,000 total follow. We're working on it. So
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. It'll happen. Maybe it's a podcast time.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to, with great anticipation, all of your dreams coming true, helping others to raise their vibration and get the maximum level of love and trust and fidelity in their relationship that they seek.
Yeah.
Are you guys, I guess Thanksgiving isn't a thing in Mexico, but
I'm also Canadian, so it was like a month ago.
or Canada or whatever, but happy holidays down there.
You too.
I hope you get them great waves.
Absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure, and thank you for having me. This was awesome, and I'll do it anytime you want.
Right. Okay. And if I can get you Facebook Live one of these days too, that would be awesome. I'm going to have to see what I can do on that side.
We'll figure it out.
So, but thank you for recording it on Zoom and sending me so I can post it. It's amazing. I love the work you're doing, and brilliant to connect with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We'll talk to you really soon. Okay.
Okay. Ciao.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.